I have never heard a good reason for God to have created Satan.
Well, that's why I'm here. So, all right, let's hear it.
No, no, no. That's not what you're here for. You're here for parroting bad talking points from apologeticspress.com.
God would have known that was going to happen when he created Lucifer, right? And why would God do that?
Well, there are several good answers. I'll list them out. First, God made creatures with free will and responsibilities. Lucifer was created as an innocent angel, but out of his own free will, he rebelled.
There's not a single passage in the entire Bible that would suggest that Satan was a good angel that just happened to sin and fall from grace. In fact, the Bible says the opposite of that. In John 8:44, it says, "You belong to your father the devil, and you willingly carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth, because there is no truth in him." In 1 John 3:8 says, "Whoever sins belongs to the devil, because the devil has sinned from the beginning." So from the very beginning, from the inception of this entity, he's been sinning. This idea that he was a fallen angel is robbed from Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14. Neither one of those passages has anything to do with Satan. Isaiah 14, the one you kind of quasi-quoted from when you said Lucifer, doesn't have anything to do with the satanic figure. It has to do with the fallen king of Babylon, technically the king of Assyria at this time period. And he's called Hillel ben Shakar. It's the shining one, son of the morning, or son of the dawn. This is a reference to northern Syrian mythology / Ugaritic mythology, which the king would have known about. This is not a play on Jewish mythology whatsoever. These are quite literally deities in the pantheon of this particular god, and it's referring to the fall of the deity Athtar from the throne of Baal. So he's making fun of the king using the king's own mythology. This is not about Satan.
And it may be the case that in any world that God creates these type of beings with free will, a Satan figure would arise. So if Satan in particular was not created, then some other agent would have rebelled similarly.
That is actually logically absurd. If it's inevitable that one of the angelic figures is going to become a Satan-like figure, then we would expect that it would have happened more than once. If this is an inevitable outcome, there should be dozens of Satans. This also doesn't solve the problem why God allowed it to happen, and rather than just executing the troublemaker, he kicked the troublemaker down here on earth and made him in charge of the whole thing. 2 Corinthians 4:4 seems to clearly state that Satan is the god of this world, which is why he's allowed to roam around the earth, prowling like a lion, seeking who he may devour. Clearly, God is okay allowing this evil entity to torment mankind here on the earth. This is clearly something that is part of his plan, or at least he's okay with it happening, and he has the power to take Satan out today. He could do it right now. He could just click his fingers and Satan would be poof, gone. And that would pretty much get rid of the problem of Satan, being that no other Satan has ever arisen in all of history.
So perhaps God's options were to create a world in which some things go bad, or not create a world at all. But since God knew he would be able to defeat Satan and evil, it seems reasonable that he would create this world. And ultimately, it was the choice of the creature. That does not make God responsible.
And of course, your answer doesn't address the fact that God is both omniscient and omnipotent, meaning he knew everything was going to happen before it happened. When he created the world, before he created the world, he could have tweaked any one of those recipe parameters and made it so that there would be no Satan. He had that power. God had the power to tweak any one of the parameters of the future or the natural world so that there wouldn't be a Satan, and he chose not to do it, which means he's responsible for the Satan. And if you're saying that, well, he couldn't have actually tweaked the parameters so that there wouldn't be a Satan, then you're just suggesting that he's not all-powerful. So you have to bite a bullet somewhere. Either he's responsible for Satan or he's not all-powerful.
Secondly, God is omniscient, so we are in no position to say what would have been better. How do you know that God does not have good reason to create Satan? If I don't know why a chess master made a certain move, would I be justified in concluding that they had no good reasons? No, that's an unjustified inference because the chess master knows much more than me. So the same with God.
Yes, the classic cop-out from the book of Job. Who are you, O mortal, to question God? But this doesn't actually solve the problem of why Satan. All you're suggesting is you don't actually know what the appropriate answer is, so you're just going to assume that there is a good answer even though you don't know what it is or you can't articulate it.
Satan's existence may lead to a number of greater goods of which we are simply unaware. God can use Satan to bring about his plan. This idea is supported in the Bible. We can further support this idea with plausible greater goods, like that we, the creation, can participate in the overthrowing of darkness. That could be a grand demonstration of the defeat of evil.
This also produces a major flaw in your argument, which is that God needs Satan to accomplish some sort of end goal. Like God is keeping him around for some sort of greater good. But again, if that's the case, you're now suggesting that whatever the greater good, whatever the goal is, God was unable to accomplish it without the Satan. And if God is not able to accomplish his goals without Satan, then again, he's not all powerful. So once again, you got to bite a bullet somewhere. If you think that Satan was necessary because God isn't powerful enough to bring about his means, then just say that your God is not all powerful. If your God is all powerful and he chose to keep Satan around anyways, then he's clearly not all good because Satan is the representation of unnecessary suffering.
In the same way that it was better for God to let David beat Goliath rather than God just snapping his fingers for David.
This is actually a terrible example because in the David versus Goliath situation, David won, but in the Satan versus humanity situation, Satan is literally terrorizing humanity and mostly winning. The human can't overcome Satan. That's literally why Jesus died, to overcome Satan and death and the curse of the law, so on and so forth. So if mankind was capable of overcoming all of this evil on their own, then we wouldn't have actually needed Jesus.
There are other explanations like the Divine Council.
Nope, Divine Council won't save you here at all. The Divine Council basically is just another suggestion that Satan is like some sort of a necessity. He's part of a larger body of angelic or divine beings, that his role in the council is to be the accuser or to somehow be God's henchman or to like carry out God's wrath on humanity or so on and so forth. But again, you're just kicking the can down the road saying that Satan is some kind of a necessary evil. But when you are an all-powerful God, there's no such thing as an unnecessary evil. You're basically saying that God can't accomplish his goal without this particular evil entity. But if that's the case, then again, God's not all-powerful. You got to bite a bullet somewhere.
And metaethics, how do you ground morality without God? I could go on, but this will suffice for now.
Nope, we don't have to do any of that. In the atheistic worldview or even the agnostic worldview, morals are clearly subjective. And in your worldview, it doesn't matter if morals are objective or not, because your worldview is that the Satan character is bad. He's the enemy of God. He does terrible things. So the guy is evil. So we don't actually need to go into some weird discussion about whether or not we can define what evil actually is. But that being said, we do have a very clear definition of an unnecessary evil in both of our worldviews. And so the question isn't about grounding morals. The question is about whether or not Satan is a necessary or an unnecessary evil. And if Satan is an unnecessary evil, then by definition, both in your worldview and my worldview, your God is not all good, or he's not all powerful, or he's not all knowing. You've got a kind of a three-way standoff here with the omni properties, given the Satan character still exists.